What's good, everyone? So we got a lot to unpack here. Last year I did a video on all the undefeated champions coming into the year of 2024. This year I'm covering all the new champs and champs that made the cut coming into 2025. Before we start, let's hastily go through who got dethroned last year. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's get to the video. So many L's happened at Strawweight. Insane, because the promotions behind the biggest names in the weight class were doing their best to set up a big unification. You had the Shigeoka brothers, both were big names in the weight class. They were undefeated. One of them was ranked in the top 2 ranks after Ringhead went out their way to demote Knockout CP Freshmart to the top 5 ranks after being ranked number 1 for God knows how long, just to get things aligned for the first ever ring title unification, because him and Wanhang held up both number 1 and number 2 hostage for years. Both Shigeoka brothers lost their titles in the spring of last year. Oscar became the top fighter in the weight class. However, he had to successfully defend his title first, which, after a little scare, he finished his side of the bargain. Knockout CP Freshmart, in a legacy fight, defied the odds, rose to the occasion, and successfully defended his WBA title, which shot him way back up into number 2 in the rankings. Since 2 of the cash cows of the weight class were dethroned, there was not much of a capital backing to this fight outside of Oscar's promotion, which I highly believe money has always been a factor when it came to these unifications never happening at Strawweight. It's just not enough to make the risk, because non-title bouts can make less than 30k, the contender can make 30k or a little above 30k, champions can make upwards to 75 to 100k plus. That's just the minimum, because guys like Yaegashi and Yoka had that pool for their opponents to get paid. IBF Flyweight champion Muruti Maflane from South Africa received a career high 7-figure payday against the former 3-time champion Akira Yaegashi. So it was really important for any of the Shigeoka brothers to win to secure a high purse. It really has to be a lot on the line to get a guy like Knockout to come to the table, and only a guy like Turkey would put up the money knowing he will not get a return investment, which Knockout got a well-deserved career high 500k, while Collazo received a career high 650k. This is the first time ever since the ring title was implemented that number 1 was fighting number 2. This was a historic fight. Oscar rose to the occasion and dominated Knockout, scoring 2 knockdowns and getting the stoppage in the 7th round to become the first ever Ring Magazine champion of the Strawweight class.
Perfectly timed, right on the chin.
Huge win, and a huge win for Puerto Rico boxing, which has had a long drought since the departure of Miguel Cotto. Outside of future champion Zayas, Oscar Collazo stands alone as the best current fighter from Puerto Rico. A lot of restructuring at Flyweight since the unification with Rodriguez and Edwards, which the rankings were all messed up at the time, resulting in that fight to not be for the ring title, and Rodriguez would have to fight Sonny another time to get the ring title. Rodriguez ultimately moved up to Superfly for good. That vacant IBF title Rodriguez had was fought between 2 undefeated contenders, the 20-0 Dave Apollinario and 17-0 Angel Ayala. Ayala getting the 6-round KO to become champion. Angel this year is set to face former 2-time light fly and current IBF light flyweight champion Masamichi Yabuki. Masamichi, a late bloomer, would pull off a big upset dethroning long-reigning champion Kenshiro Teraji, ending what would have been a historic run, as he was on a good pace to surpass Yoko Gushkin's record. Despite Teraji winning the rematch, Yabuki would go on a 4-fight, 4-KO win streak. The 4th fight was against the 2-time champion Natashinga, getting the stoppage in the 9th round. Yabuki has one of the highest knockout ratios in the lower weight classes, with the record of 17 wins, 16 by knockout. A win here will be massive for either guy. This really has candidate for fight of the year written all over it. In the final quarter of 2024, after vacating all the titles at Flyweight, Jesse dethrones Juan Juan Francisco Estrada, who I would say sadly, he was holding the progression of the weight class hostage. Jesse earned the WBC and ring title. Ending the year off, he would face former light flyweight champion Pedro Guevara. Jesse is a new era of the weight class, and we're actually seeing moves made in this division as Jesse is in the works with unifying against another undefeated champion, Fernando Martinez. Fernando Martinez, untested, will take an entire flight of stairs up in competition, facing long-reigning IBF champion Jerwin Ancajas, beating him by unanimous decision, then to beat him again in the rematch. In his next defense, he would face undefeated contender Jade Bernea, stopping him in the 11th round. In Fernandez's third defense, he went up against Japanese star, former 4 division, unified, and 5-time champion Kazuto Ioka by a wide margin in the scorecards, cementing his status in the weight class. Coming into this year, Fernando is in talks to face the legitimate champ in the weight class, Jesse Rodriguez. This one will definitely be a banger. Classic Argentina versus Mexico rivalry never seems to fail. Bantamweight is filled with undefeated champions, the most in the entire sport as of now. I am hoping to see this weight class unified to where we will see an undisputed champion. I can only assume that the fighter will go on to face Naoya Inoue in a potentially record-breaking fight. Will it top off Daisuke Naito versus Koki Kameda in terms of viewership? We will see. In my time of covering this topic, I have covered numerous kickboxing and Muay Thai guys that had a full career in their respected sport, transitioned to Western boxing, and within no time became a world champion. This just further exemplifies that kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters are the best candidates to become world champs in boxing. Yoshiki retired from kickboxing with the record of 23 wins, 2 losses with 16 knockouts. He became the K1 champion, held that title 2017 to 2020. He also won the K1 Grand Prix in 2017 and 2019, which is an incredible feat to do. It's an 8-man tournament, the best in the weight class, and the winner of the tournament is decided within 1 day. There's no dodging, no cherry picking. This man won it all. After announcing in 2020 he will be transitioning to boxing, he did an exhibition not that long ago after his pro debut against former champion Sho Kimura, where Yoshiki showed what was in store for his promising pro boxing career. Within 4 fights, he went to 6 to 8 rounders to 12-round regional title fights. He quickly rose to the ranks, picking up the very important OPBF title, signifying he's the best in the Pacific region, to get him in line for a title shot. He was set to face WBO champion Jason Maloney. Takei would shock onlookers, who still had the mindset that fighters from other realms of combat sports can't transition to boxing at a world-class level. He would shout out Maloney to become champion in 9 pro bouts. Unfortunately, I can't show any footage because this specific American promotion doesn't believe in fair use and will abuse the copyright tool to do so, despite this being the Como, Ohashi Promotions, or Taken Promotions fight, or Amazon and Ohashi Promotion fight. It sucks because I can't even cover this side of the sport anymore like I want to because of these clowns. But anyways, Yoshiki would have his hardest fight yet in his first defense against former champion Okinawa's Daigo Higa. Yoshiki would hang on, finish the fight strong, and earn a razor-thin unanimous decision. Yoshiki was only up by 1 point on 2 of the judges' scorecards. He was scheduled to fight back in January of last year, but he had to pull out due to an injury. Seiya Tsutsumi is the WBA champion. He picked up the title back in October, dethroning the brother of Naoya Inoue, Takuma Inoue, by a close unanimous decision, ending the brothers' conquest of unifying all the belts back to the Inoue name. Tsutsumi has some unfinished business. His 2 draws on his resume were against a former champ and future undefeated contender. Seiya is set to face in a rematch former WBC Flyweight champion Daigo Higa on the 24th of February. Higa, who fell just short in his last title fight to regain the title, gets the honorable second fight opportunity against a former rival. This is the Okinawan's last shot to regain the title, so I'm expecting a hell of a show. If Seiya gets past Daigo, we may see a rematch between him and the other fighter he earned a draw with, Kazuki Nakajima. He's the current OPBF champion. Ryosuke is ranked number 2 in the weight class. He holds the IBBF title he won back in May of last year against Emmanuel Rodriguez. Despite the slow start to his career because of COVID, Hirosuke was quickly moved along where he would go on to fight former flyweight champion Daigo Higa for the WBO Asian Pacific title, and his 4th pro bout, he will earn the wide decision. After a couple 12-round fights, he will find himself in his 9th pro bout against IBF champion Emmanuel Rodriguez. Nishida will earn the decision to become champion. His recent fight was back in December of last year against undefeated Thai contender Anuchai Dunsua, getting the knockout victory in the 6th round. Nishida has only 2 knockouts on his resume, which on paper could indicate he has no power. He is an incredibly sharp puncher, which make up a lot for the lack of supposed power. A perfect example is former WBC and lineal champion Masamori Tokuyama. When he became champ with 21 fights, on his resume, he only had 5 KOs. However, thanks to his great technique and accuracy to land where it will affect the fighter negatively, he kept his opponents honest and respectful. Junto is the #1 ranked fighter in the weight class. He is a 3-division champion, currently holding the WBC title. It took him a hot minute to get into title contention back in his first weight class, but once he got the belt, everything was coming in incredibly fast. In this all-Japanese unification of the entire weight class, Junto will be the favorite to win them all. He is currently defending his title against mandatory undefeated contender David Cuellar Contreras. Contreras is a big, tough bantamweight, however, he's untested in this level of the sport. His only notable wins were up against former contender Jose Velasquez, contender Gilberto Pedroza, former champion Luis Concepcion, a name I haven't heard in a decade, and former champion Moise Fuentes, who was well past his prime at that time, and unfortunately in their fight will result in his passing. This fight is scheduled on the 24th of February. The fight to see if Nakatani becomes undisputed is against undisputed super bantamweight champion Naoya Inoue. Japan's first undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. Japan hasn't had an undisputed champion in decades, mostly because of JBC not recognizing the IBF when it was first implemented, starting the 3-belt era, and later the WBO before it became legitimate, and after it became the standard in 2007, starting the 4-belt era. The JBC did not recognize the IBF and WBO till 2013. If it was recognized sooner, we may have seen one as early as 2013 or 2014. With Kazuto Ioka becoming the WBC and WBA champ at Strawweight in 2012. By the time Japanese fighters could fight in ranked WBO and IBF sanctioned fights, Ioka had been moved up to light flyweight. Inoue is part of the 2-time 4-belt undisputed club, which is shared with Terrence Bud Crawford, who was undisputed at junior welterweight and welterweight, as well as Clarissa Shields. Lightweight was still a political mess at the time, so Crawford missed out on getting a 3-peat before he could no longer make the weight. Inoue started the year with a bang, getting revenge against Luis Neri. However, I am 100% certain that Inoue's plan is to fight whoever becomes undisputed at bantamweight. It would have to be special circumstances that he moves up to feather. The champion he faces has to be unified or close to undisputed. I think he's too small for feather, and at super bantamweight he's pushing it. There's a lot of things I saw in the Doheny fight I didn't like. Inoue has a habit of coming in partially guarded when fighters are on the ropes, and Inoue would get clocked cleanly. This was seen in the Fulton fight in the 5th round, and I saw it plenty in the Doheny fight. Inoue respectfully broke Doheny down and stopped him. However, you can't be taking risks like that, banging it out with these heavier guys. It's the art of adjusting and modifying the pound for pound style. Reasons why Mayweather lasted as long and was dominant as long as he was. Him and his team learned after the Chop Chop Corley fight at 140 pounds, making the needed modifications and adjustments, which made him a better fighter in higher weight classes. If Inoue has any plans of moving up to featherweight, he needs to make those adjustments. He has a granite chin, but if anyone gets hit that cleanly up in weight, they will get knocked out. Naoya's recent fight with Sam Goodman was postponed in December due to an injury, then was just ended outright due to Sam getting injured again. However, Inoue had a fill-in for that date, WBO Asian Regional Champion Yeju Kim. Inoue stopped him in the 4th round. Due to whatever happened to Sam, Ohashi Promotions lost a lot of money, mostly from the lost revenue from the December date. Year-ender or New Year's Eve combat sports cards are the May Cinco de Mayo cards of Japan. There's a lot of money to be made, and for this situation there was a lot of money that was lost. Then followed up with Sam to get injured again, putting even more damage and revenue. We're talking about a lot of money here. Inoue's next fight is not set in stone yet. However, he is scheduled to fight in May of this year. It won't be against Sam, but we'll see what comes up. Nick Ball, 21 wins, 12 knockouts, 1 draw. After receiving a draw against Ray Vargas for the WBC Featherweight title, he will get another shot at the title against newly crowned undefeated WBA champion Raymond Ford. Ball would earn a split decision win to pick up the title. In his first defense, he will get a 10-round TKO victory over 2-time contender Ronnie Rios. Ball is currently set to face TJ Doheny March 15th. Ball has publicly called out Naoya Inoue ahead of this fight. We'll see what develops. However, I don't think Inoue would take the risk and move up just for 1 belt. He's going to need some more silverware here. Ball should focus on trying to unify against Rafael Espinoza and #1 ranked Angel Leo for the ring in IBF. These guys politically he can get a fight with, as Frank Warren and top-ranked Bob Arum is in good relations. Since Ball is with Frank, he can also go across the political line and fight a PBC fighter, which if he were to beat Espinoza in a unification, he can very well pursue an undisputed unification against newly crowned champ and former unified super bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton. Really, if you cut out the political BS, you have an undisputed unification by the end of this year. The winner can go forward and set up a super fight with Naoya Inoue, because I don't think he will do what he did at super bantamweight, move up and fight 2 guys that should have already unified against each other, which I'm talking about Stephen Fulton versus Ahmed Aliyev. At his position, having an opportunity at a 3-peat undisputed, realistically, it will only be pursued if he has to fight 1 guy. Rafael Espinoza, 26-0 with 22 knockouts. Rafael came on the scene not known by many, and in his first fight on primetime national US television, he delivers an amazing comeback to earn a majority decision win over Robeisy Ramirez. He's since made 2 title defenses against contender Sergio Sanchez and getting a TKO win in the rematch against Robeisy Ramirez. Lightweight division is the best but worst division in boxing. It's purgatory for any fighter who wants to do anything productive. However, it's heaven for a fighter who doesn't want to do any of that. 30 wins, 28 knockouts. Davis is coming off a huge win against Frank Martin. The more I look at the Martin Shakur situation and how Martin looked against Davis, my personal opinion on the matter, stylistically, Martin may have beaten Shakur on very tight scorecards, or at least giving him a run for his money, as experience in the final 4 rounds will play a big factor. The stable of fighters politically for Davis to fight is incredibly thin. However, Davis has proved that he doesn't have to have a title or fight a name to sell. He has a very dedicated fan base, so if there's not a severe decrease in viewership, Davis will not come out and partake in a cross-promotion fight. He's set to face current WBA super featherweight champion Lamont Roach Jr. I'm from Virginia, born and raised. When it comes to rooting for things, especially in the NFL, we don't have a team. You either grew up becoming a Skins fan, Cowboys fan, and whoever the local legend went with. Now for me, the NFL, I'm just a random Tennessee Titans fan. I became one when Vince Young got drafted. So I was there for the good times, and I was definitely here for the really bad times. But anyways, so with boxing, since us folks from VA hadn't had anything to root for since Pernell Whitaker, which I was too young to be around for, I just rooted for whoever was from DC when it came to boxing, which I was lucky to see him during his come up when I was working the fights. I see him as a local, so the only thing I could say is, due to the crappy circumstances, I'm happy he's got an opportunity. I hope the best for him and happy to see him get a career high purse. 22 wins, 10 knockouts. When Shakur came on the scene, he was making moves. Became the featherweight champion, beat the talented Jermell Herring for the super featherweight title, unified against Oscar Valdez, took the man to school, then ran into one big old speed bump after that. Like I stated numerous times, he should have done his best to try and unify the weight class for Undisputed, because politically he was in the position to do so. This would have given him a better shot at coming into terms with an Undisputed fight against Devin Haney. Instead, we didn't get this perfect scenario here. He was forced to move up to lightweight, no title, demanding a fight with Haney, a guy with many options after becoming undisputed. Shakur, on paper and in my eyes, he's a former champion, so Haney commands the lion's share of the purse. It's different if Shakur still had a title.
Not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
Shakur doesn't agree to the terms to take the fight with Haney. Personally, I think he would have beaten Haney, but he didn't want to take the risk. All the belts go vacant and spread everywhere like Dragon Balls after all the wishes are made, and now Shakur has to start back at level 1 and deal with the politics of cross-promotion unifications. He currently has a WBC title, however, he hasn't had a stock-raising performance since the Yoshino fight. He clearly has the skills. His last fight, he completely outclassed the guy, but he didn't take the risk to put on a show and finish the fight strong, which left fans disappointed. And supposedly they were leaving early from the venue before the fight ended. The problem with modern boxers, it's really society today. Constructive criticism equals hate. You're either 100% for them or you are against them. They don't know how to handle the press. They don't know how to handle confrontation. They don't know how to self-promote.
Gold medal for the United States.
I'm the greatest. I won the light heavyweight championship here in 1960. I was the best light heavyweight that ever lived. And I'm going to tell you that I'm the greatest now. I'm a heavyweight. Ain't nobody can whoop me. I'm going to whoop everybody. There's two men. Yeah.
Unless it's scripted from a tweet, which some of these guys, no names, hire someone to write for them. It's a big problem with American boxing. I only know 3 guys from the modern era who came from the old school self-promoter mindset where everybody at that time could speak for themselves.
Well, I tell you what, Larry, unless you got powers other than being a commentator, then that's a part of the business and part of the problem. So since you exposed that to the world, let's move on to other issues.
If I recall correctly, you said you were the people's champion?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you're acting like a people's champion?
Yes, sir.
Handle tough questions and handle confrontation under pressure. Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, and Tevin Farmer. There may be some other guys that I'm unaware of, but these 3 here are the best examples. It is very easy to tell the difference from genuine hate and constructive criticism that is meant to help someone improve. These people don't want to see you fall. They want to see you succeed and become big. Putting these fans into the same box as haters or racists, it's a disservice and undermining of the fight fans' intelligence. Shakur could have just shook it off, used that as motivation, instead attack everyone for stating the obvious. Even Roy gave his critique, which pretty much aligned with what the fans were saying. Because Roy, no matter what, if Roy knew he couldn't get the knockout, he would do his best conservatively to keep the crowd entertained without getting hurt in the process. You can make people look stupid defensively and make it entertaining.
He's masked it very well. And Canelo, at this point, might know as Floyd looks out the...
Pernell Whitaker was a master at that.
With the jab, must be very...
Cardona was able to land a left hook. You see Whitaker like now that. He's having some fun.
See, there
this is exactly be able to get away before.
And a modern example, Tevin Farmer at his peak. Shakur is actually in a better position as he can pursue a Lomachenko fight. Zepeda, depending if he gets past Farmer, but I believe if Farmer wins that fight, this unification can be made much easier. And then against the soon to be decided WBO champion. Shakur is set to face undefeated contender Josh Padley, February 22nd. Padley only has 4 knockouts. However, these knockouts and knockdowns were in his last 4 fights. Can't really sleep on if he has power or not. However, this is the best opportunity for Shakur to put on a show and raise his stock up. He needs to deliver this fight, and for the sake of setting up the biggest fights at lightweight, I hope he has a good show. 2012 London Games silver medalist, he started pro in 2015 and slowly moved up through the ranks, picking up all the regional titles, and due to what was going on at lightweight prior to him winning the regional title, he had a long time to wait. After 8 defenses of the WBO International Regional title and picking up the EBU title, signifying he's the best in Europe, he finally got a crack at the title against Emmanuel Navarrete. He will win by split decision to become champion. Since I'm late, his next defense is up against, which I'm proud to announce, Virginia's 757 local, Keyshawn Davis. This is an honorable mention here based on these circumstances.
I'm so hyped. This is going to be our first champion from goddamn Virginia, man. I've been waiting for this for so long. 757, let's get it. Norfolk, we got this, man. Goddamn. Come on, Keyshawn.
So I was still writing the script prior to the results of this fight. Like I said before, us folks from Virginia ain't got nothing to root for. Got a couple college programs that do something good every now and then, but that's it. We had one guy who had a good run, Jerry Forrest. He came so close to a title shot. He brought back the pride and heart I had in my state. So shout out to Jerry Forrest for holding it down, giving us some hope.
So the VAs, go to VAs. VA in the house, VA in the house, yeah. There we go, we got it.
Keyshawn Davis, a fellow 757 guy, came up and made some noise in the amateurs, then on the world stage. Keyshawn was pretty much a full package early on in the pros. He was moved very quickly. If he wanted to get into title contention, you have to go through and get the national and regional titles. He went the hard route, picked up the WBO regional belt, picked up the WBC US title, USBA title, defended and fought on until he earned a title shot against Denny's. So my time zone is all messed up, so the fight is in the morning, but you best believe I ain't missing this fight.
Yeah, Cook, he got twisted D to the body. Ah!
To the body.
Ooh, what do you know? What do you know? Woo! Stay down. Stay down. You ain't about that. Stay down. Stay down. Oh! VA back.
Keyshawn gets the victory and makes a piece of Virginian history to end this drought in boxing to become the first champion since Pernell Whitaker in 13 fights. He went the route very few fighters in the States have went because not many American fighters have to rely on national and regional titles like overseas guys have to when it comes to earning a title shot. Keyshawn took the risk and went that route, and it paid off. In the post-fight, he delivered a surprisingly good promo, which is rare in modern boxing, calling out everybody in the weight class. So I'm hoping some big things in the near future after he brings the titles back to Virginia and has a homecoming fight in the Scope Arena. 23 wins and 10 knockouts. Albert was the WBC interim champion, and after Devin Haney's WBC title went vacant, he was promoted to champion status. Coming up, Puello fought a lot of prospects prior to becoming contender. His biggest win to date was against contender Akhmedov and Gary Antoine Russell for the WBC interim title. Puello is set to face former EBU champion and mandatory Sandor Martin. This will be his biggest test to date to cement his status as champion since he was promoted by email. Sandor gave Teofimo Lopez a lot of trouble in their fight. 26 wins, 20 knockouts. Brian started his career at 17 years old. In 2018, this man fought almost every month, raking in 11 fights. In August, he had 2 fights in 1 month. I know quality over quantity, but he's fighting so regularly that he is literally getting experience and rounds every month on the pro level. This is an old school guy here because this man's schedule from 2018 to 2023 was insane. Now, he didn't fight the entire 2022 year. However, in 2023, he got into regional ranks, became a contender, and then knocked out the interim champion, the 32-0 Giovanni Santillan, in the 10th round. Due to Crawford vacating all the belts, he too was promoted to champion status. Brian is set to face Derek Cuevas at the end of March. Ennis is the future of the weight class. He was waiting quite a while. However, his time finally came once the Spence versus Crawford rivalry came to a close. In 2023, Ennis would get a shot for the IBF interim title against Karen. Ennis would clearly win, but it wasn't the performance people were expecting, which just happens when American styles clash with Eastern European. Which is why a lot of fighters from PBC in the past, unless they absolutely had to, would not fight these guys, because the general American public don't know who they are. They are not a sell. They're incredibly skillful but beatable. However, it won't be pretty. So if Ennis doesn't get the knockout, or at least a knockdown, and finish strong, he's going to receive some negative attention. So for Crawford's misfortune, when he came to welterweight, he had to fight those random skillful guys no one knows about. However, on the plus side, it made him into a better fighter, and which that helped with Ennis. In his next fight, he would wipe the floor against Roman Villa, a guy that beat one of the most talented welterweights. Ennis would be promoted to IBF champion. His first defense would be against Karen, who had managed to get back into title contention. Karen in the rematch will be much more on the offensive this time around. In the first fight, he was mostly on the defensive, fighting on the back foot. To his credit, he did land here and there. Ennis displaying he has a very good chin. He will find his rhythm in the 5th round, cracking Karen and dropping him to the canvas. After that, we would see an amazing show by Ennis. Karen tried to do something big in the final round. However, it just was not enough, and Ennis will win by a wide margin on the scorecards. Ennis is set to face undefeated WBA champion Mantas Stanionis. This is either going to be an easy mop the floor fight for Ennis, like a Crawford versus Postal type of show, or it may be a very tough technical fight, but entertaining, because Stanionis is a come forward fighter. 15 wins, 9 knockouts. Due to the departure of Crawford, Stanionis just rose up by default. He became the WBA regular champion in 2022, then was out of the ring for 2 years, made his first defense against Gabriel Mestre in 2024 as a real WBA champion since Crawford, the super champion, had vacated and moved up. As stated before, he's slated to fight Ennis April of this year. 41-0, 31 knockouts. Terrence is the first men's 4-belt 2-time undisputed champion, as well as the first male fighter to become 4-belt undisputed champion when the WBO became recognized by all belt organizations coming into 2007. The first boxer to pull that off after 2007 was Cecilia Brækhus in 2014, possibly one of the longest reigning undisputed champions at that. Cecilia held it for 6 years. Crawford in his first fight at junior middleweight would defeat Israel Madrimov by a close unanimous decision for the WBA title. Crawford is in the position of a 3-peat undisputed run and possibly come close to Mayweather's undefeated record. However, with recent news, Terrence may be pursuing a fight with Canelo Alvarez. To be honest, I hope he doesn't take it. He has a chance of pulling off a 3-peat undisputed run, and since Jamal Charlo is out the picture with the WBC, middleweight is incredibly close now to setting up an undisputed unification. By the time Crawford can secure an undisputed fight at junior middleweight, an undisputed champ at middleweight may be already decided, and he can very well pursue a fight there, and that will be enough to retire right then if he wins. Really, we should be seeing Canelo versus Benavidez. Now, I know it will definitely happen if Benavidez ends up beating Beterbiev, or the winner of the Bivol rematch. If the fight is for undisputed at light heavyweight against David, he will more than likely pursue and retire. But we'll see what comes up this year. Janibek is the IBF and WBO champion. He only fought once last year against the undefeated Andre, stopping him in the 9th round. Janibek is set to make his first homecoming fight in his native country of Kazakhstan. He hasn't fought in his home country since 2016. Hopefully we'll see him later this year unify against WBC Carlos Adames or Erislandy Lara. 23 wins, 9 knockouts. William Skull is a slick, lanky fighter from Cuba. He was actually ranked in the top 10 for quite a while by the IBF, first appearing back in 2021 after becoming the IBF Latino champion. After Canelo became the IBF champion and the rankings were playing musical chairs in title eliminations, Skull found himself number 1 in the rankings by the end of 2022. He will finally become IBF champion after a vacant title grab against Vladimir Shishkin. He is now set to face Canelo Alvarez in an undisputed unification. Since the IBF title went vacant, Canelo was no longer undisputed. This fight here will happen on May 3rd. First undisputed champion at light heavyweight since Roy Jones Jr. He currently has the highest knockout ratio at light heavyweight with 21 wins, 20 knockouts. For a more detailed bio, please go back to the 2024 video. Beterbiev is set to face Dmitry Bivol in a long-awaited rematch. My honest opinion on the last fight, I think Bivol completely threw away rounds 10, 11, and 12, while I only had him up by 2 rounds. In a fight of this magnitude, you have to finish a fight and take the fight away from the champion, though in this case, both are champs. Bivol did not finish the fight, and the scorecards are reflective on what I personally saw when watching the fight. Whoever is the winner, we're more than likely going to see maybe a Benavidez fight. I'm hoping for a Benavidez fight. I think that will be the fight that all the fans will want to see, but we also have to see who's the upcoming mandatory opponent. Jai is the man in the weight class. He's the ring, lineal, and IBF champion. Jai recently, back in January, defended his title, getting the 4th round knockout. The fight to make right now is with the WBO WBA champion Gilberto Ramirez, but I think they may let it sizzle, and maybe a fight with WBC champion Badou Jack. Jack won the title back in 2023. He vacated it. A lot of crazy stuff happens between the fighter in line for the belt, resulting in Jack to be reinstated as a WBC champion in December of 2024. What's up with this organization? Jeez. Anyways, Ramirez and Jai may happen first, and Jack will have the privilege of being the final boss fighting for the undisputed. Last and finally, we're at the finish line. The heavyweight division. Not much to cover here. Alexander Usyk, former undisputed cruiserweight champion, the first since O'Neal Bell, who won it in 2006. Usyk would slowly but surely transition to become a heavyweight after starting his journey in 2019. In 2021, he was primed and ready to fight for the heavyweight title, defeating unified champion Anthony Joshua. After defeating him in the rematch and beating Daniel Dubois in his second title defense, and his third defense, it would be for undisputed against Tyson Fury. Usyk would win by a narrow split decision to be on the short list of cruiserweight champions to become undisputed, and an even shorter list of undisputed cruiserweight champs to become undisputed heavyweight champs, the first since Evander Holyfield. Usyk would lose the IBF crown, which would be picked up by Daniel Dubois. I don't know what's next for Usyk. He can very well just retire. His career is completed at this point, or he can pursue future mandatories like winner of Parker versus Bakole, rematch the only blemish on his resume, IBF champion Daniel Dubois, or give Zhang a shot if he gets past Caballero. Money-wise, rematch for 2-time undisputed against Dubois is the most realistic. If Zhang wins his upcoming fight, that will be an incredibly profitable matchup. Though Zhang, in my eyes, I felt he was abandoned since he didn't win a medal in the Olympics. If he had that same energy that was put forward to push Zhu Shiming, Zhang may have already gotten several title shots by now, several opportunities for a title by now, but sooner than later. China in its history never had a heavyweight champion. Zhang is the best heavyweight to reign from China. This is for the legitimate heavyweight title, and it would sure be a huge fight to hopefully get a win and retire off of. But we'll see. And on top of that, this is the undefeated champions in boxing for the year of 2025. For more installments, be sure to like, share, and if you subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This project being on the tale of Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Alpha Sancho, and I'm out.